So, which, I mean, we can get mad about it, or we could just go, well, that happened. I'm gonna clean it up now. Hello, you. Welcome to my channel. Today on Ian's Provisions, I want to talk to you about beef bone broth. Bone broth is so full of nutrients, it's healing, and it provides a deep need in our bodies. It's medicine that we can make. So here we go. Here is our setup. I have about 4 pounds of beef bones. You want to have some meat in some of the bones because the flavor of the beef broth is in the meat. I'm going to roast these for around 30 minutes at 350, turning them once or twice because that will deepen the flavor in the broth. Here I have just regular bones with very little meat on them. I already put about 4 quarts of water, which is 16 cups of water, in my crock pot. I'm going to put these bones in the crock pot and then put in around half of a cup of vinegar. Vinegar extracts the minerals from the bones, adding to the health benefit of the broth. I'll go ahead and put those in. Pour in my half a cup of vinegar. You don't need a measuring cup, just guess. So, that's good. And I'm gonna let that sit for 30 minutes. And so these two will be ready at the same time. And while you're cooking your beef, you can put your cheesy tortilla to heat up in there as well to have with your homemade kombucha. Our 30 minutes are up. Here I have a few peppercorns that you might not be able to see here, an onion, 3 carrots, 3 celery sticks, and my piece of chocolate for dessert. So I'll add these meaty bones to the pot. Woo! Ow. To the pot. Ow. Oh, I'm bleeding. I need a Band-Aid. Though wounded, I will now add 3 carrots, celery, 3 carrots. This doesn't have to be technical. Just add them. And you don't even need to take the skin off of the onion. Just cut off the ends, quarter it, and then add it to the pot. So a great question to ask is, what I'm doing immoral or illegal? No, add the skin. And then add your carrots. Now, I'm noticing that the water in my pot is getting quite full. And your peppercorns. Okay, you can see that the water is right at the top. That's okay as long as it doesn't overflow. We'll see if it's going to. Nope, we're good. Now you just want to turn it on low and let it cook for about 24 hours. That does not look lovely, and yet it does. Hello there. Welcome to the next day. Our beef broth has been cooking for about 24 hours. I've got 5 jars set up, and you don't have to have either of these. This funnel makes it a little less messy when you're pouring your broth into the jars, and this strainer just strains out any floaters that you might not want in there. If you do have them in there, it's okay. Everything is cooked, and this is either going to go in the refrigerator or freezer, but I don't necessarily want them in mine today. And you can strain your vegetables into a bowl like this. And I've got my pistachio ice cream that I made earlier, so might as well have some of that before we get started. That's good. Okay, here we go. I forgot this. You don't want to fill your jars completely to the top, because if you choose to put them in the freezer, if you fill them completely to the top, your jars are going to break. So give them at least an inch from the top of the jar. Oh. Look what I just found. Piece of meat. That's good. These things happen. This happens. So, we can get mad about it, or we could just go, well, that happened. I'm going to clean it up now. What that does is it causes me to stop and go get some more ice cream. See? Everything's better now. That was a good reason to stop. Here. Let's do this. We'll see. I might be making a big mess. Yep. Oh yeah. And that's it. So what I'm going to do now is put the lid on these and let them sit until they get to room temperature, and then I'm going to refrigerate them, and the fat at the top will solidify. Okay, while we wait, I want to talk about where to get your beef bones. Ideally, it is best to get them from a local rancher if you were to order any size of beef. If you don't get them from a local rancher, if there's a butcher in your area, you could get them from them, or you can go to the grocery store, but make sure you get high quality beef bones, and if they ask what kind, then you can ask for beef ribs or beef shank. Those have a little bit of meat on them, and the flavor of the beef broth is in the meaty bones that you use. Or you can ask for knuckle bones, or even the calf foot. And I know that sounds awful, but there is so much nutrients in the calf foot or the chicken foot. If you were to make chicken stock, it creates a gelatinous broth, and the gelatin in the broth is so highly nutritious. So, there's that. Hello? Okay, now that the fat has congealed on top of the broth, I'm going to skim it off. Now notice that the beef broth is very light in color. That's because I didn't have a lot of meat on the bones when I made the broth. So the flavor is going to be pretty neutral, though it will still be nutrient dense. If you want a darker color and a deeper beef flavor, then make sure that you have quite a bit of meat on the bones when you make your broth. Oh yeah, it's gonna come right off now. My broth is gelatinous. That's what we're going for. Though this is not as gelatinous as others I have made, what you want is to be able to turn your jar upside down and it not really move. I'm not there with this batch, but it has happened. Now I've got 5 jars of pretty neutral flavor beef broth that is going to be good in soups or stews or, but what I'm going to do is put the lid on these, and you can either refrigerate them for a week or so or freeze them for a long time. So thank you for clicking in, and I hope that you have enjoyed this very short lesson on making homemade beef broth.